How about that? Yeah. Thank you all so much for being here. Jeff. We'll try again. We'll try that again. All right. Welcome to City Council. Our opening ceremony will be by Ted Chalfont of Little Lambs. Did I massacre your name, Ted? Or did I get it right? All right. Awesome. Okay. After Ted's comments, we will have him lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, not the national anthem. We found out last time. Yes. All right. So, Ted, please.
So thank you for the City Council for
the new mics.
Mark, can you have people take their masks off?
Go ahead and take your mask off. Yeah.
All right, great, thank you.
I think better, Jeff. Yeah.
So I can go ahead and read my. All right, great. Thank you to Logan City Council for inviting us here today to share a little about our foundation and express our gratitude for your support through the COVID-19 pandemic programs that we have at Little Lambs and for the children we serve here in our community. 1 in 3 moms struggle with diaper need, and that has a negative impact on families and children. Diaper need is more distressing to moms than having food for their family. Since the beginning of the COVID pandemic, Little Lambs has held 14 diaper distributions at Little Lambs Center and 2 distributions in conjunction with other organizations here in our valley. We will be holding our next diaper distributions at Little Lambs this Saturday for families in need. Last year, we distributed almost 800,000 diapers. That's more than double than our previous year. To give you a perspective of what 800,000 diapers is, imagine 3.5 full semis end to end. That's 800,000 diapers. At the beginning of the pandemic, Little Lambs had 113 children signed up for our monthly diaper assistance program. And by December, due to COVID and all of the ramifications that it had on our economic situations, we had 582 children signed up for our monthly programs. Currently, we have 296 children signed up and are able to receive diapers, wipes, hygiene products, and formula if needed. This is in addition to our community distributions open to the public. Most of our families that we serve are hardworking citizens. They are just needing a little extra help with these basic necessities that no child should have to go without. I want to share a message to the council and to the great citizens of Logan City and the surrounding areas. This is from a mother who utilized our program that she just sent this letter the other day to us. She says, "I just picked up my diapers and the extra items for my family. Your organization's kindness always brings me to tears each month. There is a lot of shame in poverty. And I'm so grateful for the way you and Little Lambs serve me and treat us with dignity and love. Thank you so much for making us feel not so alone." I'd like to thank everyone here tonight, our great council, and everybody who's listening today, in keeping our community and these babies happy, healthy, and dry. If everyone could stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you so much, Ted. Thank you for sharing that information with us. It's hard to imagine how many diapers are 800,000. All right. All right. Open to a motion to accept minutes and approve our agenda for tonight.
I'll move.
I'll make a motion to accept both the agenda and minutes.
I'll second that.
Excellent. Thank you. All those in favor of acceptance of minutes and approval of the agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Accepted minutes and approval of the agenda. Our 2021 regular meeting schedule is the first and third Tuesdays at 5:30, and our next meeting is April 20th of 2021. For the time being, and we're probably getting close to changing this, questions and comments for the mayor and council. This agenda item is suspended due to the limit on the number of attendees in the council chambers. Please email comments and questions to teresa.harris@loganutah.org, who will distribute them to the mayor and the council members as well too. We did get an email today, which we will probably discuss at the end of our agenda as well too. So we'll keep that under council considerations for that one. All right, let's move on to the mayor and staff reports. Mayor Daines, some board appointments.
Thank you very much. We have several appointments, and the first one is we've appointed a new member to the Planning Commission. We would like to ask for your ratification for Jordy D. Guth, and Jordy is here tonight. We'd like to recognize her and appreciate her willingness to serve. So she works at the university in a planning role and has great expertise to bring, certainly understands process and how that works. So we would ask for her ratification.
I know Jordy quite well and am pleased to propose and that we nominate or approve her. What's the word? Anyway, thumbs up with Jordy.
And I would second that. I think it's great. She's had a commitment to the renewable, what's the committee's changing its name, but I know she's served the city in other capacities too as well. So thanks for your previous service, and we'll look forward to your next.
So we...
Do you want to do the other two, or do you want to do those separate?
do this one and then we'll do the other two.
Okay, all right. All in favor of this board appointment for Jordy Guth, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Accepted.
Welcome to
Yes.
Jordy. We appreciate that.
Thank you so
And
much.
we also have one more vacancy on the Planning Commission. We expect to have a name to bring to you for that slot by the next council meeting. And on Historic Preservation Committee, again, we're just trying to do a little better job at rotating our assignments that have term limits. So on Historic Preservation, we have two new potential appointees. One is Jennifer Duncan. She lives in a historic home on the boulevard, has also lived in the historic Center Street district. And Joe Needham, again, he owns a business in the historic district, has also remodeled a couple of homes in the district, very familiar with that. So I think both of those individuals are well qualified and willing to serve, so we would ask for ratification of them, and again, hope to have a third name to bring to you by the next meeting.
I would move we approve those.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded for Jennifer Duncan and Joe Needham. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we'll approve those appointments as well, Mayor.
Thank you. And now we'll move on to item B on the agenda under mayor and staff reports, and I will ask Teresa Harris, our city recorder, to give the council a little bit of background on the interlocal agreement we are going to enter with Cache County regarding election services.
Thank you, Mayor Daines. 2021 is a municipal election year, and this year in Logan City, 2 council seats as well as the mayor seat are up for election. As you may have heard, the state of Utah has mandated mail-in voting for all elections for cities and towns. Logan has been doing mail-in voting since 2015, so this is not new to us. With the new mandate of mail-in voting, counties, including ours, are reaching out to their surrounding cities and towns and proposing that we contract with them for election services. Since 2015, the county clerk's office has assisted with our election in the capacity of providing 2 or sometimes more of their staff during the election to come here to City Hall and verify signatures with a database that is tied into the state system. This is something that, because of security reasons, only county clerk staff are allowed and certified to do. If I were to verify signatures on my own without the database, it would require the Lieutenant Governor's office to print me a list of voter signatures to compare to, and an alphabetical list, a poll book of registered voters, And then once the signature is verified, the ballot would be ready for counting. Basically, we would be doing the election the way it was done before. We did vote by mail, which is everything would be done by hand, which was fun, but either that or I would have to take the ballots over to the county for signature verification and then bring them back to City Hall once signatures are verified and the ballots would be ready for counting. And I don't feel comfortable transporting ballots back and forth. The county's proposal is that they would mail out the ballots would be returned to them, verified and processed electronically. Justin Anderson and William Chris from the Cache County Clerk's Office are here tonight, and they can answer any questions you might have about that process and the machines that would process those ballots. As city recorder, I would still be responsible for several parts of the election, which are listed in Exhibit A in your packet and included with the interlocal agreement. The county's proposed cost will be calculated 11 days before the primary and general election and will be adjusted higher or lower depending on voter turnout. The average cost per voter would be $1.95, and in 2019 we had 20,500 registered voters. So the cost, if the registered voters were the same today, would be $39,975, and that is per election. We typically budget about $35,000 per election, so there would be an increased cost if we contract with the county. I checked with the Lieutenant Governor's office, and currently there are 15 out of 29 counties in the state of Utah that run their municipalities' elections. They said that number could go higher as there are still a few counties such as ours that are deciding what to do. I also received an email from the county this morning who informed me that all cities and towns in Cache County have entered into an interlocal agreement with them, with the exception of 3 who have yet to decide. And well, 4, because we have yet to decide. I have thought about this a lot, and for me it comes down to what is best for the voter. After doing a lot of research and talking with the Lieutenant Governor's office, my recommendation is that we contract with the county. I have also conferred with Mayor Daines and City Attorney Kimber Housley, and we are in agreement that this is the best course of action at this time. I want the ballots to be processed in a timely manner. I want them to be secure, and I also think that consistency is best. On election day, there will not be a vote center here at City Hall, but there will be a large countywide vote center at the Cache Event Center, so voters who need a ballot can go there to vote if needed. And lastly, candidate filing begins Tuesday, June 1st and ends Monday, June 7th. The hours are 8 to 5 p.m. and voting will be here in person with me at City Hall. Are there any questions of myself or of the county?
And as you have heard, this is a recommendation. I mean, it is an administrative decision, but it's a big decision, and so we certainly wanted to put the information and the reasoning out to council, see if you had questions, concerns, comments before we go ahead and sign the interlocal agreement, so.
Well, I guess I have a concern in terms of cost. Does that $39,000 include the printing of the ballots and the mailing of the ballots and everything else?
Well, and that's listed in the interlocal agreement on the exhibit. But I'll let Justin answer. Can you answer to that?
Justin Anderson, Cache County Clerk's Office. That cost does include postage going out to every voter. It includes ballot printing, envelope printing. It assumes the return postage cost. There are ways to drive down that cost, and that would be primarily through voter education. When you mail a ballot back to the clerk's office, there's postage that has to be paid to that. Most voters do not affix postage. They just assume that if they mail it, it gets to our office, which is true. But we are deploying additional drop boxes in Logan and throughout the county where we would encourage voters to return their ballots to a drop box, which would save a little over 45 cents per ballot returned at a drop box. So there are ways to decrease those costs, but we wanted to put the cost high. That way the council would budget appropriately and the cost would hopefully come under.
And the cost is a per ballot, so they're estimating based on our previous voter turnout. So it could go up or down.
But My question is, per ballot, we have 20,000 people who return the ballot, but we mail a whole lot more than that out. So if it's $1.95 per ballot for Logan City, that is a huge amount of money.
Give me just a moment. So yes, so there are fixed costs that you have to mail a ballot to every voter, and you would have to do that regardless if you contracted with the county or not. Where the costs come in is with the higher percentage of voter turnout. If more people are returning their ballots through the post office, you're inherently going to have to reimburse the postage on that. And so with voter turnout increasing, you'll see a slight increase. But again, it's relatively fixed. We're taking into account the cost of everything going out. We've assumed a percentage of voter turnout based off historical turnout in Logan City. That way we can give the best good faith estimate of what Logan City should expect in the 2021 municipal election.
Okay. Well, what you said didn't answer my question.
I'm sorry. Can you say it again? I'm sorry.
So, the $39,975 that Teresa talked about, that includes mailing out all the ballots.
Correct.
That includes counting all the ballots
Correct.
that come back in. That includes paying for all the ones that are returned,
Yes.
which is like $1 a piece.
Yes, we've mentioned that in our local agreement, in addition to the exhibits and scope of work provided to Logan City. So yes, that cost does include all of those costs that are associated, including labor, including software costs. It's 30 cents per signature that we have to verify through our system. It includes all of those costs built in.
So the estimate is that it will be $15,000 more between the two elections, assuming you have both a primary and the regular November election, to have the county run the election. But again, there with the new system, the challenge is signature verification and how we would do that on our own if we continue to run the election on our own, which we could do, and it's problematic.
So I may have missed something, but what did we do 2 years ago or 4 years ago? I mean, how is this different?
I'll let Teresa speak to that.
So 2 years ago, the county came over, they had a computer system, they had a database of signatures. And so on the ballot, there would be a barcode, those signatures would be scanned and the signatures were checked. I don't have access to that because because of security reasons, they don't allow, I'm not certified to do that. City clerks are not, or city recorders are not certified to use that data program. So the county has to come over and do that, but from my understanding, I can't, and Kimber checked into it as well and talked to the Lieutenant Governor's office, so I don't have access to that program. They can print me off a list of signatures, but I would just be checking one signature. And so just checking one signature, I don't feel like is a good enough verification of a ballot. And it's, to me, that's not a good enough verification. Plus, I would have to have a list of like a poll book and checking in, the ballots as they come in. I would be checking off names of the ballots as they come in. And with the computerized system that the county has, those ballots come in and they're automatically processed and they're checked. And so if someone goes on to voteutah.gov, they can see that their ballots are being processed, where mine would be, if I were to do it kind of the slower way, this other way, they would be delayed because I would have to take them over later and they would be processed. So it's a timely, the ballots would not be processed in a
So
timely
we've
manner.
cooperated with the county in the past, but this is, what you're saying is this is a technical device that makes it more secure and faster.
Yeah, well, so someone would not be coming over here to do that. So they have a computer system now, the electronic way of processing the ballots.
So they're no longer able to come over.
Right.
So the county's changed their process where they used to prevent people.
They don't have staff that they can send over and help with that process. And I don't have access to the online signatures with the Lieutenant Governor's office.
We don't have a choice.
No, we do have a choice.
Yeah, I
but-
can do it the other way. I can get a list of signatures, I can get a list of the registered voters, and I can, I can do it kind of, like I said, kind of the old, paper way, but it would take more time, and I don't feel like I would be able to verify the signatures appropriately, maybe, and it would definitely take some time. There would be maybe questionable ones that I would still maybe need to reach out to the county for them to go further into the system to look at signatures to verify the ballot. So, because I wouldn't have access to the entire signature, the entire system, because I would just have a limited view of the database.
And we looked at, this is going to be a big change for the county, and all of a sudden they will be doing all the municipal, or nearly all the municipal elections. And we looked at, well, do we let them sort of do a test run with, part of the cities this time, and then we could consider, opting in, in another 2 years. So, there are options, let them kind of do a run this time, because we are the largest city certainly, and we'll have the largest number of ballots to deal with.
We just don't want the national news coming into Logan about voter irregularities, so
Right.
make it good.
Right. Well, and the county has said that I can go over and watch the process and be involved. I was shown the room where the ballots would be kept, and it's a secure room, it's a locked room. They are doing all of the other cities in the county, so
Not all.
not all. There's three towns that they're not as.
And I would imagine if I was a county that was far flung, the fact that there's no polling places except for the county event center, I think for those other surrounding communities, for their voters, that may be an issue on voter election day, that they don't have access to a poll. Those of us in Logan are fortunate in that county event center is in Logan, so it's not a huge issue for us, so.
And the county event center, that they only have the one location for the presidential, and from my understanding, it'll be the same for the next year's election for the state election as well. So, and I think too, a consistency is because they'll be doing it'll be the same process for the state election and the presidential election, so the voters will kind of see the same looking ballot, they'll kind of see the same process, but this is new to a lot. I feel fortunate that we've done vote by mail, so our Logan voters are familiar with how vote by mail works. Some of these other towns and cities are not familiar with that, so it's new to their cities and towns where they're used to going to a polling location on their municipal elections, and now they have to do, it's all vote by mail across the state of Utah, so. I would like to continue doing it ourselves, honestly, but I just feel like it's going to be a much harder process to verify the signatures and to.
So you basically have to hire additional staff, so.
Well, and I've
expenses would most
typically
likely
used
go
staff
up.
just in-house, so we've used, from different departments here within the city. But it's the signature verification and making sure those ballots are verified so they can be processed for counting is my main concern.
So they're gonna do everything that you have been doing.
They're going to mail the ballots out. They'll be returned to the county. They will be verified. The signatures will be verified, and they will tabulate those.
It says that they will do all administrative functions related to candidate filings.
No, that will all
All
be.
administrative
no.
functions related to financial
No, if
disclosure.
you'll read at the top, Jeannie, that's all my responsibility.
Yeah, so the city still has to do canvassing at the end as well.
That's listed at the top. That's still, all of those duties are still my duties as city recorder.
Okay.
There's still a long list of things I have to do. I do all the candidate filing, all the candidate expenses, there's lots of notices. There's still quite a few things that I still have to do it's still a city election.
Okay.
So what are you seeking from us tonight?
Just to see if you had any questions, any strong feelings one way or the other. Again, it is a year-to-year interlocal agreement, so we could choose another direction if we're, choose to go differently in the future. But at least for now, that is our thought, is that we will go in that direction.
Oh, I don't.
So can you tell me what initial payment of return postage means? What the county will do? What is the initial payment? Does that mean you will then turn around and charge us for it? Is that correct?
Can you let me know which document you're specifically referring to?
I'm on page 2 of A,
Exhibit A.
Exhibit A. The 4th item down. After ballot mailing and ballot printing and layout and design. I don't know what initial payment of return postage means. I just don't want us to be all of a sudden
Surprised.
very surprised.
So the initial payment of return postage, the United States Postal Service is required by federal statute to return official U.S. election official mail to the election official, regardless of postage is affixed or not. So that initial payment of return postage is the county paying upon immediate delivery of the ballots any postage due to the United States Postal Service. We would then turn around with the invoice and seek reimbursement from Logan City for any postage for the ballots returned without sufficient postage from the voters.
You just told me a minute ago that the cost included all of that.
That is correct. That is us seeking the reimbursement for the cost, which is built into that quote.
So you're going to invoice it separately, or it's included in the original?
It's all part of a package deal. What that is just saying is we are only going to seek for reimbursement for specific costs that the county incurs for the election, and that'll be a specific cost that the county will be able to come back to you. It's within the scope of the quote provided earlier, that $39,000 that was mentioned.
And Craig has reviewed that interlocal agreement and can offer a little bit of clarification here.
Thank you, Craig. I appreciate that.
The cost is certainly a legitimate concern, and in Section 5 in the interlocal agreement, it says that the city agrees to pay the county the lesser of the actual cost of the county's administration of the 2021 municipal elections and the estimated costs contained in Exhibit B. So the lesser of those two is what the city will pay.
Okay.
So the most is going to be what is listed in Exhibit B, and what is that, $39,000?
It's based on voter turnout.
Correct. Now, if, say, Logan City has a historical election with 95% voter turnout, not a single voter uses a drop box, that is going to raise the cost of return postage that would need to be reimbursed. But we projected those costs based off of historical voter turnout. And we assumed that no voter would use a drop box in that quote, just to ensure that the appropriate amount was budgeted so we could come under that quote.
I think the problem was that Exhibit B wasn't attached
Yeah, we don't have Exhibit B.
in our packet. We only got Exhibit A, we didn't get the cost sheets.
Yeah.
That was part of the problem when I was reviewing this, is like none of.
Okay, and then it's mentioned in my file.
Right, it wasn't, so we did not get a copy of that in our packet.
The interlocal agreement that we drafted in with Exhibit A and B and the scope of work in addition to the 2021 election calendar is a pretty standard document that's provided from counties to the municipalities to help them better budget and to anticipate what the scope of work will be and what responsibilities rest with the county and which responsibilities will rest with the city. And we followed Title 20A of Utah Code pretty closely when we specified which responsibilities would be retained under Teresa. It is a city election, and she would retain her title as the election official this year, regardless of who administers the election. So,
I think part of the problem was, though, we didn't see the costs until you presented them to us tonight. That part of the exhibit wasn't in our packet today. So I think that's why maybe we've had some more questions, because we're missing a piece of information.
and I would like to follow up from one comment made earlier today from Mr. Jensen. You mentioned something about, voter fraud or security fraud or something to that effect, our office has reached out to the United States Department of Homeland Security, and we will be undergoing a 3-day comprehensive audit that reviews both physical and cybersecurity audit of the Cache County Clerk's Office. After we receive that audit back from the Department of Homeland Security, we will then be given additional funding to implement those measures to ensure that the Cache County Clerk's Office is equipped and is prepared to administer any and all elections moving forward. So, thank you.
It used to be so simple.
Well, I feel like we didn't get the whole packet.
We can send that out to you tomorrow, and then we won't sign the agreement for another, at least a day. So if you have any additional comments after you review that, feel free to give me a call back.
I appreciate that. Thank
And
you.
we'll try and get that wrapped up within a couple of days. So.
I don't think anyone on the council is happy with the price increase, but, it is what we have to do apparently, so.
It's a conflict of interest. We have an incentive to have fewer voters.
It's all right.
Just have to budget for it or change our voting.
Please don't vote this year. We're short on money.
No, we do want to. All right, are you ready?
Don't understand.
Keep that to yourself, Tom, yes, keep that to yourself. Mayor, please go ahead.
I'll move on to item C, which is the Cache Valley Transit District update by Todd Butler, but unless he's hiding behind a pillar, I don't. All right, we will move on and evidently put that on another agenda. He had requested to give us an update. Item D, also, I'm going to defer for 2 weeks. There have been additional discussions about potential bonding to do a number of road projects within the COG, which involves all 19 municipalities in the area, but like I say, some things are changing, so let's bump that for 2 more weeks. So with that, my report is completed.
All right, wonderful. Thank you, Mayor. Vice Chair Simmons, anything from the Planning Commission, please?
Planning Commission was relatively quiet last meeting. They approved a conditional use permit for the Calvary Baptist Church to move into a commercial space, so.
Where were they previously? Do you know?
Oh, they may have been at one point, I don't know if that was the church that was on First North.
I'm not sure.
Was it different? I don't know
They just
where they
redid that
were,
one too.
where they were before. I
The
didn't.
one on the second one?
That's okay. I was just curious, so, yeah, I was just curious. We'll find
So,
out.
that's it.
That was it?
That's
All right,
it.
there's not a whole lot, not a whole lot going on Planning Commission, so. Thank you for your report, though.
For one time.
Yeah. Thank you so much. We do have some other board appointments, and I believe that is my responsibility, but I'm not really sure what I ought to be doing with that. Mayor, can you assist me with that? Would you mind?
Yes, you essentially do what we did with Planning Commission members and Historic Preservation. Because what used to be RECAB is now RESAB, Renewable Energy Sustainability Board, Advisory Board. There are some proposed new board members because we've kind of merged 2 groups that were working on similar issues, but independently, and I think it will be a synergistic relationship. So
I didn't recall as all of a sudden their name changed. It was like, I don't remember talking about that at all, but that's okay.
we did talk about it in the council meeting. Was it a month ago?
I must have been not paying attention. Sorry.
Because again, RECAB was council's
Maybe back in
board.
January, I think.
Was it back in
Because
January?
They started putting together new board documents and governing documents. I think we actually may have discussed even back in 2020 was the change in RECAB, and then you guys have been working on the new charter and things like that, so it's been a while.
We changed the bylaws slightly to sort of incorporate the larger group, but the proposed RESAB board members for your ratification are Patrick Belmont, Paul Campbell, Herm Olson, and Paul Rogers. And we also have 2 new student board members, which has also been previously a part of RECAB. Emily Fletcher and Cole Stoker, I'm afraid I don't know the correct pronunciation there, but we would ask for your ratification of those individuals to serve on that board.
And those are students at USU?
Yes.
Yes, the student members,
Very good.
And are they all for the same term length, or are these staggered?
we're going to stagger those again,
Some
so.
of these, so that'll be done internally as to who serves how long.
Well, I think traditionally the students have only been for a year, maybe 2, because they graduate, so.
And again, we have a number of existing recap members that are now folded into the RESAB. And again, we just are making sustainability a bit more of a focus. The board involves the mayor as well as the council members. And Emily Malik, who is now the sustainability coordinator, will report directly to me on a monthly basis. And so, yes, we recognize Emily over here. So we've just made a few changes and are focusing on that area a little bit more. So we appreciate Emily's help.
Do we need to approve that?
Yes.
I'll move to approve it. I know a good number of these people, and it's going to be a very energized board.
You really want her on there?
I will second that.
We
Yes.
have a motion and a second. I did notice that Herm's resume was very long. I guess in a good way, too. So it's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of accepting these board members, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Board members have been approved. Thank you so much, Mayor, and thanks for the help. I appreciate that. All right, let's move on to our action items. So we have continued from March 2nd, public hearing, consideration of an annexation petition filed by Mark Daines on behalf of Paul Campbell for the purposes of annexing 37.45 acres, more or less, into the city of Logan, located north of 2200 South and east of 800 West. And Craig, you do not look like Mike, so.
Not nearly as dynamic or sharp as Mike, but I'm
But,
sure.
please.
JV team, yes. So as you know, Nibley has filed a protest of this annexation. The Boundary Commission met. They met on March 25th, discussed it, did not make a decision. Kimber attended that meeting, and it was continued, but there's no date that it was continued to. Kimber and Mike also met with Mayor Dustin and discussed the annexation. My conversations with Kimber, he said he recommends that this be continued till at least May 4th.
I would move we continue ordinance 12-04 to May 4th.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of continuing to May 4th, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? We'll continue till May 4th. I hope all of you did not come specifically to comment on that particular topic, but
So I have a question.
I apologize.
Mr. Chair, can I
Yes.
interrupt?
Yes.
I just had some feedback from a Facebook watcher that both Tom and Amy with their mask on are very difficult to understand. So if you could take off your mask when you're speaking, that will help our listening audience. Thank you.
I have a question on this annexation, just out of curiosity. I know that Nibley had a meeting last week to talk about changing some of their zoning. Does anybody know what the results of that, or pay any attention to what the results of that might have been? Whether there was public feedback or agreement? Because it seems like they were basically rezoning it, so it could be rezoned what it would be if we annexed and rezoned it into Logan. So just curious, anyone follow that?
good question.
I'm not going to comment on that at this time.
Okay. I'll look for information elsewhere then.
Thank you for your candor, Mayor. All right, we'll move on to our next action item.
Well, I'm going to
No.
say one thing. I
Go
don't
ahead.
know where the Calvary Baptist Church used to be. It isn't in the project, or Calvary Logan Church. It is, but it is moving on the just south of the Y, only not on Highway 89, on whatever the other road is. I can't remember the number.
One that goes to Hiram.
65.
165.
And very close to the auto parts store that's there. So,
Okay, very good. Thank you for finding that.
sorry.
No, thank you. Budget adjustments, appropriating $75,000 additional funds for increased fees associated with utility billing credit cards. $13,000 funds for the library were awarded from the state of Utah for the digitizing of local records. Rich Anderson, you're up.
Nothing to add.
Nothing to add? You did a wonderful job last time at the workshop, so it's great.
That's
I
classic.
tried not to take over your particular position, but
I like your Easter colors.
you covered those very well 3 weeks ago, so thank you very much. Any comments from the council? Let's open it up. If anyone from the public would like to comment on that, now is your opportunity to comment on Resolution 21-15 for budget adjustments. Not seeing anyone come up for comment, we'll bring that back to the council for action.
I'll move we approve Resolution 21-15.
Second.
All right.
Second. Now they can hear.
Thank you for removing your mask temporarily, Tom. It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor of Resolution 21-15, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. Thank you. All right.
Now Rich gets to come up.
Yes, we're on to our workshop items. I will not steal your thunder this time. Finance Director Anderson, Resolution 21-20. Would you like to share that with us?
Yes, very important one.
Thank you. Well, while you're at it, why don't you do 21 also,
Absolutely.
since you have both.
So the first one is a request to appropriate $13,463 for police overtime shifts. As you'll recall, police are engaged in various activities, both with the state, other agencies, and with private parties where they'll perform police duties and then get reimbursed. So this is a request to now reimburse their budgets and allow them to be restored back to their normal level. Any questions? We try to do them only quarterly so as to reduce the number of times we're coming before council for this item, but we'll do it a couple more times this year. Next item is a request to appropriate or approve a resolution for a 10-year interfund loan from the electric fund to the library for $4 million at 1.69 interest. So the state law outlines how we are to do interfund loans. The length of the term cannot exceed 10 years. The amount of interest allocated cannot be lower than the PTIF rate, which is hovering sub 1%, and the 10-year treasury of the federal government, which was 1.69% when we proposed this resolution, this interfund loan. So we're requesting council to approve it. It does have, and I want to draw your attention that it is a 10-year amortization. However, there is a balloon payment at the end of those 10 years. It's possible the library will be able to pay back that balloon payment from reserves at that time. If not, we'll have to re-engage and obtain a different interfund loan in order to stretch that out for a few more years. But I did want to make sure that it's clear that is a balloon payment at the end of those 10 years.
Every year we do a transfer of funds. How will this affect that transfer back to the property tax?
It will not affect it at all. So the library levy that is currently in place was put in place for this purpose to pay back the interfund loan. So with this $4 million, we will have all of the $16 million that we have allocated, roughly $16 million, toward the library project. All of those funds will be now on hand. Now we still have to come back to council to appropriate those toward the building of the library. It's just they'll all be gathered together. The reason I'm coming with this today is because 6 months ago, the treasury yield was about 1.2%. Now it's 1.69. In the unlikely event interest rates go down over the next 6 months to a year, we may come in and refinance that loan. The library would have to pay interest on it from initiation, which is May 1st, until whatever date it would be refinanced. But we could do that. It's all on us. It's internal. We know both sides of the equation. Both funds can handle it. In the unlikely event that the electric fund needs these funds in order to do a capital project or something else, we would simply come back to council and ask that we move that loan to a different fund.
multiple funds.
Well,
could
plus if
do it.
if we wait until closer to construction time, we run the risk of being forced to pay a higher interest rate.
Yeah, exactly.
So.
And my
it's nicer to
anticipation is
lock
it
up.
will be higher.
Yeah, it's nicer to just lock it in now.
So Rich, my understanding too is by doing this, we are going to be able to prevent having to have an increase in our city taxes for the library. Is that not correct? So by borrowing the 4 million basically from ourselves to construct a brand new spanking amazing, fantastic, wonderful, amazing library, we can do it without raising fees for our community.
Absolutely, that's the best part. As long as what we're constructing fits within our current budget. Anything else would have to reconsider our options, but that is the best news of all. The property tax increases that we went through several years ago for the library should sustain it through the building of the new library, and it's anticipated also through the maintenance of that library once we have it constructed, maintenance and operation.
Do you anticipate it taking the 10 years to pay this, or do you think it will be sooner?
I anticipate it'll probably take the full 10 years. And I do anticipate there will likely be another interfund loan to pay back that balloon payment and extend it a few years. At that time, it'd be $1 million, something like that. And we could pick any of the funds, including the general fund, to do that. And if we pick the general fund, state law allows us to do that without coming back to council. However, we would notify you and let you know what we're doing.
Okay. Sounds great. Any other questions for Rich?
Nope, one step closer.
Yep. Thank you for being creative.
Thank you.
All right.
Although creative accountants usually end up in prison, so.
I was trying to be careful which words I was choosing, but I think
I'm
that's
not sure
great.
there's a good word.
I like being able to
Flexible, maybe.
find ways to make this happen, so.
Thank you for running a government that's in the black instead of the red, so we
Yes.
can do this.
So we can do this,
Yes,
that's right,
exactly.
yes. So we appreciate your expertise and knowledge, Rich. Thank you so much. All right, rezone, ordinance 21-07 for a proposed rezone of approximately 0.8 acres located at 800 North, 50 West. Tanya Rice.
You just started my talk.
I know, I'm trying not to steal your thunder, so.
Well, all right. Like Chair Anderson said, this is a rezone for a 0.8 acre parcel north of
Chief Jensen,
downtown.
Chief Jensen, can you move the screen just a little bit, please? Oh, thank you so much.
She may need to speak into the microphone.
Oh, absolutely. Is it on? To orient you, can you see my mouse? Yeah, my mouse is right here. This is Smith's Marketplace and Mount Logan Middle School.
Will that mic pull a little closer to you?
You know what, maybe it's not on, let me see. Oh, there you go, is that better? Very good. Mount Logan Middle School and Park, mixed, there's some, did I say that he's wanting, their proponent is wanting a rezone from commercial to mixed use? This is the fluff, what it is, the future of this parcel. It is still commercial with a little bit of commercial over to the west, which is currently MR12. But you can see here its orientation to Smith's Marketplace and the school recreation area. Here's a closer look of the parcel. It is in the Bridger zone, for the Bridger school district. What else can I tell you? Are you interested in me reviewing the difference in mixed use and commercial, or should I do that after the at my presentation? Mixed use and commercial differences, or do we do that next time?
It's good to do that.
Okay. All right, so why don't I go ahead and go back to this screen, it shows a little bit better. The primary differences are, primary differences in use are that there can't be anything automotive in a mixed-use area, and in the commercial, it's either conditional or permitted, like gas stations, car services, things like that. No television transmitters, no light manufacturing, which are all permitted in the commercial zone as it currently exists. This is a small 0.8 acre site. There's not, light industrial probably wouldn't happen there. Big box probably wouldn't happen there anyway. In terms of residential, which is likely the reason why the proponent is wanting to change the use, the density is a little bit higher in the mixed-use zone. You can have a freestanding building with residential, and you can also have residential on the first floor, whereas in commercial you're not allowed to do that. So that's a summary. I'll go into more detail of that during my presentation next time. This is a workshop, correct? Yeah. Okay. Let's see what else I can tell you.
Planning commission result.
I'm sorry?
Planning commission result would be appropriate.
Oh, absolutely. Planning commission unanimously voted for this to be rezoned. Yes, very good, thank you. The Fifth West currently is in disrepair. This is what the site currently looks like. It has concrete paths throughout and a sidewalk that dead ends into the backside of Wimmers, I believe. And this stretch right here is pull-in parking, just random pull-in parking. Staff's position is that it would be quite a good use for this spot and a good thing to do for the neighborhood and the street. Across the street, like I showed you on the map, or the zoning map, is currently MR12.
So the pull-in parking, and I wanted to ask this in planning commission, can I just ask it now?
Yep.
Is the pull-in parking, I'm so loud I forget. That street is quite narrow.
Yes.
Is that pull-in parking owned by Logan City, or is it part of the site?
That is a really good question, and I will find that out for next time, unless you want me to pull up the zoning map right now.
No, but I'm curious because I believe it may actually be owned by Logan City
Okay.
because of where the sidewalk is located, which makes the site smaller
Correct.
because they counted it
Correct.
in their
Chris,
drawing.
do you know off the top of your head?
Your base map should show the line. Yeah, go back.
Nope, that's part of the block.
Well, it's hard to know. Can you see the yellow line right here?
Well, I can see the sidewalk and I can see the cars.
Yeah.
So I just don't know whether it actually,
There's a yellow line that shows it.
The small little yellow line is the.
I can barely see
I
this.
don't either. I mean, I can see it on my screen.
I see two yellow lines. Do I see two?
Look
No,
behind
this
it.
one right here goes, if you can follow my mouse. But anyway, these parcel lines are not exact. They're somewhat estimated. It looks actually closer to inside the property line than outside the property line, but Jeannie, that's a great question, and I will find that out for certain for next.
Because I think it would be important for us to know whether, the potential exists for us to expand that street at any time if we need to, and because it looks like, when you looked at the street view, that white building at the bottom, which is the, I'm gonna say the auto parts store, maybe? No.
This is Wimmers right here.
No, I'm talking about that little skinny white one.
This one?
No, down below, south of there. When you looked at the street view, when you showed the street view, it looked like there was parking all the way down that block.
There's parking okay, let's go back.
Yeah, it looks like it goes all the way.
This is on the.
Bump into the building.
Is that the end of the building? Is that the
It
end?
bumps into the end of the building right there.
You'd have to take the building.
Yeah.
I would suspect that that was parking for the old Redwood Theater.
No, it was a trailer park once.
Was
It was a trailer park and there's still the pads.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
They may have had some extra.
The
parking.
trees
So
and
that was
the
theater.
pads still exist from the trailer park.
Okay, interesting.
But
I will find that out.
yeah, I would just be curious. Thank you.
You bet, you bet.
Question.
I will say in the commission, or in the plan commission meeting minutes, it does say that Mike identified that they would have to do streetscape improvements along the property line. So I'm wondering
I didn't hear what you said.
if Mike DeSimone said they would have to do full streetscape improvements along the property line.
Right, it would be-
was developed.
it would
doesn't
be-
clarify what the property line is.
Right. It would be curb, gutter, and sidewalk.
Yeah.
So I didn't, that's why I was curious, because it makes it a lot smaller if you're gonna do curb, gutter, and sidewalk. You
It
know,
is a
what-
good question. And
Yeah.
where is the 0.8 acres?
Yeah.
So I will have that information for you next time.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions?
Does not appear. Okay. Thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Wait, actually.
Yep.
Frank Schofield did ask a question in planning about the impact on schools. Were his questions and
He
concerns addressed?
didn't ask the question, he just stated that we prefer having single-family homes added to our neighborhood, not apartments, and this would lend to townhouses or apartments because of its size.
So he wanted to keep it commercial. As his letter says, that they would oppose the rezone.
Right.
Very good, thank you.
You bet.
All right, moving on to Resolution 21-17, workshop, consideration of a proposed resolution adopting the public art auction plan. Aaron Smith. Glad you could be here, Aaron.
Well, thanks for having me.
Last time Aaron and I saw each other, we were getting our vaccinations.
That's right. So the 2021 Public Art Action Plan, this is sort of the vehicle to bring sort of what's going on in the committee, the Public Art Advisory Board, to council sort of at the beginning of a year to lay out our kind of goals, objectives for the year, our proposed budget, what we're looking at, and the proposed projects that we're going to pursue for the next year. Just kind of orient us in the plan narrative, kind of discusses where we're at. So we just adopted this public art master plan last year, and we, defined our core values, had a lot of outreach, great experience with the plan. One of the recommendations from that, as we form our committee and start this thing moving towards projects, is to develop an action plan process where we're doing this communication, where we lay out our plans for next year. So this is really that opportunity to discuss that with the council. The goals and objectives identified in the plan are kind of those first year punch list items that need to get taken care of. Creation of a board, formalizing this process of how we communicate properly with the council, pursuing sort of initial grant funding and other funding, establishing just the board identity, social media engagement, community engagement, how we're going to go about that. Then more excitingly, completing first projects and really going through that process of implementing public art projects in the community and engaging with local artists. And then our last goal is to also explore additional funding models and opportunities, things that may come up in the future that we could recommend to this board to consider, to the council to consider for keeping a robust public art plan moving forward. Budget this year, and these are things that you'll be seeing in the future, but just as it's laid out in this plan, the line item funding of $10,000 would be something that would be reviewed through the regular planning, budgeting process. And then also something that the council approves that you'll be seeing soon is a CDBG application for $10,000 in funding. So those are the two proposed funding mechanisms for the year. And then also we'll be looking at other grant opportunities, but a lot of those require additional matching funding that's just not available yet. But we'll start to be developing that list of what grants are available and hopefully pursuing additional projects in the future through grants. The projects, so there's 2 projects this year. The first one is a downtown placemaking project. This is the 10,000 line item budget budget that was discussed. This would be creating public art downtown that really connects with the sense of place and character of downtown. It's proposed to be a project that could be a mix of media. It doesn't have to be just a mural. It could be a mural, but it could also be sculpture, installation that comes in and comes out. Something that involves digital art, like an augmented reality, where it's a mural, but when you look at it with the phone, could pop out. And I'll go through some precedents on those, but really looking at downtown and connecting with that sense of place. It'd be bounded to that geography, and public property is preferred just as for ease of first year juniors to get through a project.
So Aaron, will this project be related to the identified spaces within the master plan?
Yes, yeah, and I'll run through some of those potential locations. It doesn't have to be those locations. We would identify those in the call for artists to say, here's essentially a short list of potential locations, but we'd be open to considering others if an artist came forward with a proposal that was in a different spot downtown. But it would be geographically bounded to downtown specifically.
Okay, thank you.
But onto those points, we have some great street corridors down there, Main Street, Center Street. We have our Center Block Promenade, something that could engage with the theater district along Center and along Main. Some great alleyways, and then we also do have small park spaces, Wayside Garden. All these and others from the plan could be considered as spaces. I just wanted to run through some more precedents so kind of understand what we're imagining. But obviously 2D mural sort of art is something that could be done, also could be on the flat, on the pathways. But then sculpture, installation, that's something that kind of comes in for a time and may leave, not necessarily a long-term piece of art. Then augmented reality, this is something that's up to change. That is generally a mural with a more interactive component through a phone. These wings would, if you pulled it up on your phone, would be geolocated, they'd be flapping on your phone, and kind of a cool concept. Second project is kind of an Art in the Park mural program. This is the CDBG funding component. So we'd be targeting parks that are in low moderate income areas to meet HUD requirements. But this really gets back to some of those goals of the plan to really have diversity of art and accessibility of art and get this not just downtown, but out in the neighborhoods, out in the parks. This interpretation of mural could have some other components as well, mosaic and 3D components. And then there are priority parks identified in that plan. The soccer park and the Merlin Wilson Park are the 2 that they identified for first year sort of project sites. And really, just kind of where this goes from here, I should mention this so we adopt an action plan. We then develop our call for artists, and that is sort of the next step where we refine this down further. The board would then, projects would be submitted, we make a selection, we come back. Final approval still rests with the mayor and the city council, so there's a veto power there. But hopefully, we have a really good board with a lot of great local artists and interest to help steer us towards some excellent pieces, and then we implement a project. So also just those 2 parks that I mentioned, the soccer park, this has a bunch of ball fields and then kind of a central concessions area. The Merlin Olson Park, historic park on East Center, also has some nice facilities and walls that could be potential for some nice art, as well as the tunnels. And then just looking at some more art precedent, painting a facility building or painting panels and sticking them up, sort of that mural component, but then also looking at mosaic, 3D, something that has more tactile feel to it. And then these I've mentioned before, but like augmented reality or something along the pathway would be the sort of art precedents that we'd be looking at for these Art in the Park programs. So that covers the action plan. I'm happy to answer any questions during this workshop.
Thanks to the initial group that's been pulling this together. They've been fun to work with and had great ideas, so it's been fun to be on that side of that this year. It's been fun to be assigned to the public art this year. Thanks, Mark.
Yes, it has. They're very excited, and it's really fun to be able to do this.
This is very exciting. I can't wait till get some of these going.
Looks great here. Thank you.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Any other questions for Aaron? I think we're just excited to see what you can come up with.
There's a lot of potential.
Oh yeah, for sure.
A couple of the members are here in the audience too, listening today, so that's great.
Very exciting. We have some exciting things happening in our city, so thank you for being a part of it. Yeah. Mark Montgomery, Resolution 21-18. Come share that with us, please.
Mark, we're fall colors. Where's your Easter colors? You're not like channel a little bit Mark Anderson here.
I think I own a colored shirt besides white, so.
A colored shirt besides white.
Just a couple of minor changes. First of all, you got the packet with the entire rate structure and policy in it, and I started doing that a few years ago because when I would go to make some kind of a change, I'd be like, when was the last time I changed rate 8? When was the last time I changed rate 2? So now I just have it in one piece so I can always find it. Really the kind of the lion's share of the changes, there's some minor wording changes. But we've laid out in our solar buyback pricing that we will kind of ratchet that up as as our installed solar increases in the city, and we're nowhere near the first ratchet. But with our commercial and industrial solar rates, we just pay 1.5 cents above wholesale, but we never put in there when we would look at it and how we would do it. So we put some wording in there that said we're going to look at this annually, and we'll make any price adjustments if necessary at the fiscal year in July 1st. The other kind of major change, not major, but we're doing a change of all the billing meters in the city, residential, commercial, industrial, and those costs are changing. So in our fee schedule, where we charge customers for those meters if they need something extra or additional, those prices are reflecting what our costs are. The good thing about it is we used to charge a solar customer $300 for a meter that was capable of bidirectional. Well, now all meters will be capable of bidirectional, so when they apply to put in solar on their home or some other distributed generation, they don't need to pay that $300 because the meter will do it. So that's really most of what's in there. Any questions on what else you saw on that?
Everyone read
This was super exciting
the
reading.
whole document, yes.
Yeah, I put red, so you just had to find the red stuff. The changes.
I don't know how you figure these out. I guess there's a methodology, but it's a rather significant jump on some of these. 71 up to 147, it's double. So
The meters are getting much more sophisticated than they were, so the costs
that's a direct pass-through.
Yeah, pretty much. And I will say, if somebody's building a subdivision or a new home, that meter is part of their connection fee. It's just if we have to go back and replace it or fix it, or, well, I shouldn't even say that, we will replace them, but if we need to do a meter change out because of abuse or, some other reason, we pass that charge through. But on the subdivisions where a developer's doing it, they're paying that cost on the homes. I'm sure the customer's paying for it too.
It's a pass-through.
It is.
All right,
So,
great. Any other questions for Mark?
nope.
Wonderful. Excellent, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks for your information.
Well, I can ask you a question that's not related. Can I do that?
No.
Yes, you can.
Can you just tell us what the status of the dam project is up the canyon?
Okay, we're probably 98% done with the construction portion of that. There's a couple of punch list items that we need to do to satisfy FERC and Utah Dam Safety and the Forest Service, and we're working through those. The next phase is to remove the sediment and also refurbish the powerhouse, because most of the equipment in there, well, all of the equipment in there is out of date. We can't get parts. It needs to be redone. So the next step is to kind of do an RFP so that we can put that out for contractors. Our contractor, Stantec, who used to be MWH, were fantastic all through this process until the last 6 months, and they have just completely disappeared on us. They've had some key people quit, and I'm trying to get the RFP. They say they have it 95% done for the powerhouse portion, and I'm just trying to get that out of them, and then I'm gonna fire them because they've disappeared on me. And I don't know if I know they've lost personnel, and I think the other part of it is we're really a very small project for their engineering group, and they're just about done, so it's hard to tie them down to finish it. The issue we have to present a plan to FERC to remove the sediment. We're permitted to do it, but we have to present an acceptable plan to FERC to do it. And I was hoping Stantec would help us do that, but I don't think they will, or I don't think I'll be able to get them to. I'm not quite sure if I can manage that myself. I really don't want to go out to bid for another engineering firm, so we're kind of trying to figure out if I can. I'm talking to FERC to see if that's something I can manage to put together this plan.
And that's basically behind the dam, right? Above the dam?
Yeah, all the dirt and sediment that's kind of filled up that entire reservoir.
Is that
We need to do second dam too.
Is that whole reservoir? That's a big area.
Well, and that's the question is, how much can we afford to do how much, right? If we did the entire down to the original stream and reservoir bed, I don't think we can afford that. Can we do 8 feet over the entire thing? Maybe, I don't know.
Do you get into environmental things because there's ducks nesting and all that stuff?
Well, like I say, we've gone through the permitting process and we have permits to do it, but we have to have an acceptable plan to FERC, which is, don't do it during nesting season for ducks and do it this time so that you're not affecting canals and irrigation and, there's all kinds of things that go into play.
Sorry, I didn't mean to open a can of worms.
No,
I was just
okay.
wondering.
I just carry a bunch of can of worms around in my back pocket.
Because
That's because you're a fisherman.
I drove by it, several times a week, all winter long, so I was just curious.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, workshop for resolution 21-14. Rasakina.
It's pickleball.
We're talking pickleball.
Yes, Council, what I have prepared for you in your packet is a consideration for a couple of different fees, as you see, and one being for pickleball. One thing to point out, actually a couple of things with regards to pickleball and related fees. We have a standing policy, because there's 8 courts there, that we retain half of that for public play. So when there are requests for tournaments or reservations of some sort regarding the courts, we will allow for up to 4 of those to be used for reservations. So the fees that I'm presenting to you tonight with regards to the pickleball, pertains to reservations and tournaments. Okay. And as you see in your schedule there and the comparisons that's also attached in there, they are as outlined. With that, reservations can be for 1 court if that's what a players wanted to do, up to, of course, 4 courts. And then our reservation schedule allows for anywhere from 4 hours as a reservation up to all day. And all day for this purpose is from 6 a.m. to 10 p.m. As you might recall, we amended the park ordinance from 5:30 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. We do plan on putting lights on these courts. We currently have an application in with the our county RAPS tax application in this year to see if we can get funding for lights. We'll see where that goes. Should that come into play, then this fee would be associated with that as far as lighting goes. So that is the pickleball package in terms of fees. Ball fields and green space. These are adjustments in some instances, new in others, because we have some fees in place already. For our ball fields, it's mainly for baseball, softball. Again, we're looking at tournament use or reservation use. In some instances, and we use the term here green space, that's because we do have some areas within our parks that don't have a backstop, but they are perfect for volleyball tournaments and other kinds of team play, where what they're looking for is just simply a grass area that's large enough. An example of that is the open grass area at Merlin Olsen Park. There's some areas at Willow Park that are perfect for this kind of use. So we try to distinguish between ball field reservations and green space reservations as you see there. We also have a staff fee assignment or a fee assignment with regards to tournament services. This might be because the organizer is requesting certain services of the department in association with their reservation or their tournament. That could be anywhere from additional field preparation, if it were for baseball or softball, to additional time needed to maintain restrooms, restock restrooms, things of that nature. Right now, we show them as a full-time staff assignment. If this happens during the course of a business day where we don't have to assign a part-time person, that rate would be at a full-time person's rate. Otherwise, if it happens to be on a weekend, which typically many of these reservations and tournaments wind up being on, it could be a part-time staff person assignment to do some of the same things that would otherwise occur, only that it's on the weekend when we typically don't have a full-time person assigned to work. One caveat I want to point out with regards to the part-time staff assignment fee is that we're also looking at, in the budget that will be presented to you, of increasing our part-time wages. I know that there's been a lot of talk, you've seen a lot of this going on. We're also experiencing this currently. It worries me a little bit with the lack of volume of applications that we typically see for summer employment. I'm not saying that all of this has to do with wages, but certainly we're in a very competitive market with many others. And between now and the public hearing, we anticipate that could change to somewhere around $15 an hour. Right now it's stated in your packet at $12 an hour, and that's because that's where we're currently at. Okay. And then finally, the last part of this component of the proposed fees is an adjustment to the golf course tournament room fee. What we have experienced over the this is the last time we presented tournament room fees for you, and this was an adjustment then 6 years ago. So we need to get better at doing this on a more routine basis because of where costs go. But currently what we have are 3 different offerings, a 1 to 3 hour period of time that a person can rent the tournament room 3 to 5 hour period of time, and then full day. And full day, for our purposes, is from 7 in the morning to 10 o'clock at night. What we've experienced over the period of time that we've had the tournament room since the last time we did fees was that people are really doing more of a half day or a full day. The 1 to 3 hour, they're rare. It might be a business that comes in that only needs it for about 90 minutes. And in those circumstances, we have a way of being able to do that, but we didn't put it here because they're pretty rare. For the most part, what we've been experiencing over the last 6 years is either half-day or full-day requests. And so we are proposing to go with that, to change our schedule from what it currently is now to a half-day rate and a full-day or a full-day rate. The other component that we have, and we've been using this as a practice, but we don't have a policy against it, is if an organizer or a renter of the space wants to bring in their own caterer as opposed to using the concessionaire that we are on contract with, then the renter pays a $100 outside catering fee, and they're able to do this. We find that this is a practice that's used with others that we have contacted for comparable fees. But everybody's kind of all over the map when it comes to how they do things, but this seems to work best for us. And in regards to the outside catering, it provides the option for that event organizer to be able to use their own caterer. And it helps us because otherwise there's the potential of us losing that customer. So those are the services that we are proposing for your consideration. I wanted to point out one other thing before taking questions to you. We plan on taking this presentation to both the Parks and Rec Advisory Board. They meet on Thursday the 15th, and also the Golf Advisory Board, which meets later that afternoon. Normally we would have their input before coming to you in the workshop session like this. But where we have that coming up in the next week, we will get their input, and then when we return for the public hearing, we'll have that information. If there's something that takes us in a different direction based on what we receive from either of those meetings, we'll be back in contact with you. But otherwise, that's our plan. And then our request is, because of where we are this time of year, some of these proposed fees are directly associated with services that people are waiting on for us to respond to. So with that, I will take any questions that you might have.
The only question I had was about the outside caterer, and you answered that already.
So I guess I have a question. So for the pickleball courts in the past, it was just first come, first served. So now you're setting up the ability for people to even just reserve one court for an hour for $10, or is that only if they're doing an organized activity?
It can be for an organized activity, or it could be for two people that want to reserve a court and make sure that they have it. They could reserve the one court for the period of time that we're stipulating here. I was going to respond to the first part of your question on that, but I can't remember what it was.
So will be an education campaign for all the avid pickleball players here in the valley as to how this is going to be impacted, because I can see someone showing up saying I have a reservation and people say, well, we just got here to play.
That was the question, or is that?
That's a question, because if you're going to start to allow people to reserve the courts, I think there's going to have to be some sort of education or signage or something, because for years now people have been able to just show up and play when they see an open court. court, so.
Yeah, so what's a little tricky with this is even though we've got people waiting to know how, oh, this is what I was going to say, and I better say it now before I forget it again. We don't have any fees associated with tournaments and reservations currently. This is why we're doing this. We do have a special event fee that we have been instituting since we opened the courts last year. But as we have looked at other cities that have reservation schedules, it's a little different than what we have been doing. The special event fee could still be applied if it's a huge tournament, if it's so involved that it really looks like a larger kind of event. So there's always the possibility of that. That's why we left that in the schedule that we presented to you. But in terms of, the one thing that kind of concerns me a little bit, but after consulting with staff, we decided to keep it in with what you've been presented, and that is the effective date. So there's a chance that, I think what you're referring to, the effective date could come into play because that really doesn't leave much time. If the council were to approve the public hearing on the 20th, our request was to put it in play the next day. We've had the practice, not that it's always the case, but we've had the practice of leaving a grace period so people could adjust to that or know that there's been a change. That could possibly change. I think we'll find that out perhaps when we meet with both boards or back at the public hearing. But if we don't otherwise, the plan is to go with the next day.
Okay. Thanks.
Thank you, Russ. Tom, questions? No? Good. Thank you. All right. Under other considerations, any other council considerations that we have to discuss? I have a couple, if you've got a moment.
You're in charge.
I am today, at least. On April 20th, since our state mask mandate is coming to an end, do we want to change how we're doing things in council, or are we comfortable with the way we are for another month? Any suggestions? Mayor has proposed an idea.
Again, after the mask mandate expires on the 10th at City Hall, we will be going with signs that say mask encouraged but not required. And, basically the guidance we got from the Bear River Health Department today was they recommend you get vaccinated, wait 2 weeks, and then not worry about the mask, go about your business. So if the council members are vaccinated and, feel like they'd like to move forward, given this Bear River Health Department guidance, I think we should go back to, putting our chairs back in. Again, groups tend to sit together anyway, and we'll probably distance. Again, we could kind of put all the staff back, put council members closer together. But again, it's your meeting, your option, but we are going to.
Well, we're all fine. I'm all fine with the fact that we've all been vaccinated, but I'm not fine with the fact that I don't know whether attendees have been vaccinated. So I don't know that I'm real thrilled about putting more seats in at this time.
That would be the question is I know, unfortunately, there's different guidelines from the CDC than there are from our state, and so I think that there's, kind of, you gotta look at all of those different pieces of things. They still are recommending physical distancing even if you've been vaccinated at this point in time. So I guess that's a question as to whether or not we're comfortable with everybody sitting shoulder to shoulder.
Again, at this point, people have the option to get vaccinated. Right. And that's what's changed, so they can protect themselves. I mean, everyone will have to make the choice for themselves as to whether they get vaccinated or not. But given that the vaccine is 95% effective, that's not 100%, but very effective. Again, do you start to resume? That is the benefit of what we've been waiting for, the vaccination to cover particularly the high-risk population and others. So again, it's a little bit of personal responsibility at this point in terms of, if you're not vaccinated and you choose to come out, that is your choice, but again.
But it affects everyone else. Because we're at, 15% fully vaccinated?
Right, but again, you also have to look at the fact that we have so many children that skews our numbers. I mean, I don't know what percentage of the adult population it is, but we're such a young population that.
It'd be much higher.
Yeah, it's difficult. But again, this is council's meeting and it's your call.
So I know the guideline is to hopefully get to 70% vaccination so that people do have that herd immunity, so.
But again, it's that 70% of the adult population and how do you figure that because they don't have a vaccine for children yet.
But what is the rate that we're vaccinating at?
The fire department was doing, was it 600 a day this whole week? 700 a day this whole week. Again, I mean, Cache County is doing a great job at getting, again, our fire department is working with their health department. So at some point, the benefits of the vaccine are that you start to normalize, but at what point are you comfortable with that?
Starting to normalize and normalizing are two different things to me.
From my perspective too, obviously I work in a place where we still wear masks, we're still physically distancing, we're still being very careful because we recognize even though most of our residents have opted to be vaccinated, not all of our staff have, and visitors coming in and out aren't, so we're still requiring a lot of those standards to keep the general population safe, not just our own particular. And I guess given the fact that, Cache Valley Transit still is going to have a mask mandate, the schools still have a mask mandate.
That's my concern.
I'm comfortable with having less distance in the chamber, but I guess I'm going to say I'm not very comfortable having the chamber go back to the way it was.
The issue of having at work too is like we've got multiple of our employees that have been fully vaccinated, and then we have a lot that haven't yet just because they're younger and they haven't had the opportunity. And so we're trying to balance that out because I have concern for our customers as well as for our employees that haven't had that opportunity. But I think in the next couple months we should begin to start looking at that. So if you're not feeling comfortable yet, I think we can wait a little bit.
Yeah, we can leave the chairs the way they are, and again, if council members are all vaccinated and staff, I mean, our executive staff will be fully vaccinated shortly. There's some that haven't had the second vaccine, and then you wait 2 weeks. Again, we can, once we're up here, again, it's your meeting, you get to decide, but I'm just wondering if you'd like us to bring the executive staff back. It was just a lot easier to interact with, the city attorney, finance director, whomever.
What I'm hearing is I'd like to see the chairs remain distance.
The way they are.
And then drop the masks. I mean, you can wear them if you want, obviously, but drop the mask. We've all been vaccinated. We're sitting 6-8 feet apart.
Yeah.
Well, we're not, but I really wouldn't mind if we're closer together up here because we have all been vaccinated.
So we could start bringing staff back. You're comfortable with that, Amy?
So,
Rich, you get to be in the front again.
I guess the question is, I know the four of us have, we would need to clarify with Ernesto that he was vaccinated because he's quite a bit younger than I am. So
And we do want to wait till the first meeting in May. That's when we're resuming our executive meetings in person because again, that's when all of our executive staff will have 2 weeks out from their second vaccine. So we will go back to face without masks for that group because we know what the coverage is.
As Amy said, I think that if all of us are fully vaccinated, I believe we could go back to sitting closer together. But I feel like we need to remain distanced in the audience because we don't know.
I think that's wise too. You okay with that, Tom?
Yeah, I am. I've been tracking it nationally, and I'm comparing Cache County with the rest of the country, and it's very impressive what we have. Our statistics, we might have a higher caseload, but our death rate is extremely low.
Yeah.
So I think we've done well. The governor's done well. You've done well.
And our county-wide case, our health district-wide cases are really pretty good right now, but there are still a few.
Yeah.
There's no question.
I think we
There
should.
are all those variants out there just waiting.
Yeah. So I think we'd be wise to wait to change the room up, but I think we can go with the staff recommendations. I like that.
Thank you for that direction.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Just wanted to point out that you all missed a wonderful trip to the Farmington Biosolids Treatment and Composting. Kaysville, sorry. Not Farmington, Kaysville.
I had a good excuse.
It's
I was deep in it too, Mark, just in a different
the
way.
composting facility and the treatment, it was so interesting. I loved the whole trip, so.
It was very interesting.
Yeah, it was, so.
When does that head to the county council?
April 13th, there will be a public hearing at the county council meeting on that, and I need to be there. That is the same night we have the CDBG meeting. So I may be late or may not even be able to make that.
Maybe we should all go.
I think it would be nice if we could all go or set something up.
I kind of looked at trying to change that, but again, scheduling that CDBG meeting with the federal noticing requirements and the schedule, that was challenging to do, again, to find another night and to renotice. So that's why we kind of decided maybe we decided we were going to start a little bit later. Where's Debbie?
They all took off because they thought they were done.
So if you want us to re-look at that situation, we could do that and maybe even try and, I'll see what the noticing has gone out on the CDBG.
Well, we've never had any public come.
We occasionally have
Others will come.
I don't remember any of them coming ever.
The applicants?
Oh, yeah, to our meeting.
Yeah, I remember some.
Not meeting here.
The meeting where we reviewed the initial application review, we've had applicants
In the
come.
secret chamber, we've had some
In
people.
the secret chamber, we have a public meeting?
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, it's scheduled, your CDBG meeting is scheduled for April 13th at 5:30 p.m. The county council meeting starts at 5, but I don't know yet where we're on the agenda. And again, if it's a public hearing, it takes a while, so.
Okay. Keep that in mind.
I'll check on that and email you, but again, given the HUD noticing requirements, it was challenging to find another date when people could meet, so, but I'll see what we can do.
So I do have a question on CDBG. The place where I work has applied for a grant. In the past year, when I was the chair, I recused myself. So I'm just going to put that out to the rest of the committee as to what their thoughts and feelings are in my participation in evaluating CDBG again this year. I think it's going to be an ongoing issue as long as I'm on council that Sunshine Terrace will be applying for CDBG. They typically
Do you feel that you could be objective?
I feel I can be objective.
I think you're very valuable here, helping us, yeah.
As long as you feel that you could be objective, and should the rest of us decide we don't want to fund the project, you won't be mad and storm out, we'll be good.
You've ever seen me so
Just once.
You know,
Sometimes in the past, council members have appointed a representative to sit in for them. I remember Herb Olson sometimes did that. He had a member, from his neighborhood that he asked to serve on the CDBG committee.
Yeah, I did that last year. I think Wendy said it for me last year.
That's right. So, great. And one quick update, hopefully you're all getting information back on our voting systems surveys, and I thought we would postpone that for another 2 weeks since Ernesto could not be here tonight, so we can talk about that. So I've got most of mine back. I think I've got one delinquent city I'm still working on.
Phone calls today, so people were sending back, so.
1 out of 2.
Okay, very good. So 2 weeks, we can discuss some of that as well too. And I think it would be appropriate if you wanted to share the information you've got so far with the other members.
Okay, yes.
Yeah, I think that would be great if you want to share that back and forth.
Or if you want me to, I'm happy to put it in some kind of a spreadsheet.
Yeah.
You want me to?
Oh, that would be nice, yeah. Would you do that?
Yeah.
That would be excellent. All right.
Ski season's over.
Yeah, all right.
What?
Ski season's over.
Season's over, yep, Jeannie is now
That's right.
available. Yeah, Jeannie's now available. Yep, all right. Any other considerations? We good? All right, we will adjourn our council meeting for tonight. And we will convene our Logan Redevelopment Agency.
And Kurt Jensen is out of town, so I am covering that item.
Oh, so you get to cover that. Wonderful.
Yes,
Go ahead, Mayor.
And this is not a new item, it is simply an amendment. We workshopped this, I think, quite thoroughly 2 weeks ago. It's an adjustment because of COVID that they didn't have to build 4 retail buildings right away. They only could build 3, and then the other one will come later. So if there are any questions, I can answer that, but if not, I think you're quite familiar with the project.
Are we good with the explanation we got 2 to 3 weeks ago? That was pretty
I
straightforward.
wasn't here, and I looked at the site plan, but it refers to a housing. It doesn't show anything on the site.
So this is the Logan Gateway Project, which is the Adams Wealth Advisors building, and the proposed 4 pads out front, which were for retail, they sort of taken that back to 3. There's also in the southwest corner of the property along the river, there was a portion that they had planned for some multifamily housing in the future
You mean the
as part of the development. So the southwest corner, again, along the river, so it's to the south of the current office building and to the west.
The river's on the north side.
Well, it would back along the river. The river kind of angles through. Yeah. So part of their incentive was that they did have to build the multifamily housing within a certain period of time because that contributes to the tax increment before it's capped out. So again, they still have, they still have that cap in terms
Is it
of.
affordable housing?
It's multifamily housing, it's not affordable per se in terms of,
Well, there isn't any plan for it right now.
right.
But the specific request from them was that they could not pull any of their tax increment unless they built all 4 of the accessory buildings along the highway. And they were asking if they could pull it, having only built 3 of the 4, because they want to save the 4th one closest to the river for some sort of a specialty restaurant or something like that, that they don't have identified yet.
And again, they still have to earn the increment in court in order to get it, but they wanted to change to that condition. So that's the amendment that they're asking for.
How many units is there?
We don't have any specification on the housing again.
Yeah,
There's not a
the
specific plan, they just.
The housing is not related to the request.
Well, I thought it was part of the write-up in there.
Well, it's part of the site plan, but they haven't made any commitments to doing
Well,
it
the
yet.
dollar volumes change depending on if they do it or not.
Right, and their caps change if they don't do it.
Yeah.
But they couldn't pull any increment at all until they built the 4 in the front, unless we agreed to let them only do 3.
Correct, and the requirements for the housing portion have not changed. So that's what you're voting on tonight, is amending the 4 retail pads down to 3.
I don't know if it's a conflict. I have some investments with them. I don't think that's a conflict.
Did you buy part of that building?
I did. I bought the top floor.
I see. Well, I'm impressed.
You ought to be.
All right, let's open it up for public comment. This is a public hearing, so if anyone's here and would like to speak towards Resolution 21-16, RDA, now is your opportunity. Please state your name and where you live.
Maybe you ought to recuse yourself if you do have ownership in that gateway.
I'm just an investor. They manage some funds for me.
Oh, they just manage.
Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
He was
I figured Tom was just.
I got a little concerned there, okay.
No, I
Thank
don't.
you for the
I
clarification.
wish I did, but I don't.
Okay, I'm Dr. Gail B. Yost, and I live at 261 South, 100 East here in Logan. I just would like to know how much money is included in this RDA, because it really didn't specify on the plan, and I think it's important for the public who may not have gotten an agenda to find out exactly how much money is included in this. It's important to make sure that people who don't read the agenda or receive the agenda or even get notices from the newspaper, that the public be included as much as possible, even those that may not have any specific knowledge of how city government is run. I just think that there are people who are not involved as much as they would like to be because they just feel like they don't know anything or they don't know what they don't know.
So Gail, when you say included, what did you mean by that? How much money is in the RDA itself?
How much money are we talking about for this particular project?
I can read that language if
Yes,
you'd like.
please go ahead.
It's just over a paragraph.
Thanks for your comment, Dr. Hughes.
Logan Business Gateway LLC will receive 100% of the available property tax increment generated by its project annually during the life of the CRPA, not to exceed $2.5 million, which is the cap, conditioned upon its constructing of the project defined as an office building and 3 retail buildings substantially as represented in its plans that were approved by the City of Logan Planning Commission in Design Review Permit PC 19-001 and number 21-002, as well as creating and maintaining a paved riverside trail that can connect to the city's trail network and that is accessible to the public in perpetuity. Available tax increment is defined as the total tax increment generated by the project during the life of the CRPA and received by the agency minus 10% that is required to be allocated for affordable housing and 5% which is used for administrative costs. Furthermore, should Logan Business Gateway LLC elect not to develop and construct the housing component of the project within 5 years, the cap will be reduced to $2.347,983.
So it's completely dependent on tax increment then.
Right. But that is the cap. The cap is $2.5 million.
Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Mayor.
Yeah, 2.5 million is the most that they will ever get.
If they earn the increment, again. They may not get that much.
It does not appear that there are any more public comments, so we'll bring it back to the council for consideration.
I move we approve Resolution 21-16 RDA.
Second.
All right. Resolution 21-16 RDA has been moved and seconded. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Resolution carries. All right, before we adjourn, I just want to make one quick comment. I completely neglected, so I apologize, but we did get an email that came in concerning the Quail Hollow plat.
We want to adjourn RDA.
Oh, should we do that?
I don't know.
We can do that.
It's not really.
It's not really part of it, but I just want to make sure that they know that we got their email and that we did get a response from Mike Desimone. And Mike said that this is part of a subdivision amendment scheduled with the Planning Commission. Plat was done by Nick Porter, who now wants to modify it, so it is before the Planning Commission. So if that's right.
On April 22nd, so that
22nd.
would be considered in an appropriate way by the Planning Commission on April 22nd.
So we will just leave that to the Planning Commission to take care of, and just wanted to make note that we received that from the Gillies, and we appreciate their comment, but that's going through the proper channel. So otherwise, thank you all so much for coming and participating, and we will adjourn the Logan Redevelopment Agency for tonight. Thank you.
You like to hit that thing, don't you?
I love it.
Look at it so hard.
Thank you all so much for being here.